So, this lecture is about supporting your idea. This is for the two speeches, the informative speech and the persuasion speech, which are both considered to be the research speeches for this course. This is when, like what you would have in your Comp 1 and Comp 2 class when you actually did a research paper. So some of this information may sound familiar because you've heard it before, and some of it may be kind of new. Some of it I actually took from the textbook, which was really good information. So what is supporting material? Supporting material is actually information that helps support whatever you're actually talking about. So for example, if you were in a court case, it'd be like evidence to support your point of view. Like this is why we've done this. And it helps build credibility. And credibility is what we're shooting for. Credibility is a concept that we'll talk about a little bit later, and we'll talk about persuasion more, but it's an Aristotle principle called ethos. And you're trying to establish credibility. And one way you establish credibility is by using external sources. You can also do it by explaining your personal experience with that topic as well. Now, one of the things your textbook points out, which I really like, I'll give them credit for this one, it says that you need to just have responsible knowledge about the topic. It means that you should understand like the major concepts that are associated with it. You don't have to know every single detail. As long as you know the general information, everything is okay. So that's an important thing to kind of remember. So a lot of times you guys will think that you've got to know everything. You should have memorized it word for word. You don't have to do that. I really want you to really kind of in that extemporaneous format using the speaking outline. I want you to be more conversational with your audience, with your at least 5 people that you have in front of you. So why do you have to do all of these things? Well, one, it's your ethical obligation as a speaker. People do a lot of hard work to develop research and to write articles and to make YouTube videos and to put all this stuff out there. They work really hard to do that, so therefore they need to get credit for that. And so just like you learned in Comp 1 and Comp 2, you don't want to plagiarize, which we'll talk about that more in a minute, but you don't want to plagiarize because it's cheating, basically what it comes down to. Secondly, it helps establish credibility. It helps us know as an audience that you have an understanding of the concept and you know how it works. So a couple rules to remember in citing sources is one, always give credit to people that have done other work. You can really tell when people haven't actually done the work when they start talking about different concepts. So just give them credit for it. It's pretty easy. You're not going to be counted off if you do give them credit. I really want you to give them credit. Try to be as specific as possible. You don't have to say like, www.rei.com/23. Now you can say, of course, like I said in another lecture, you can say rei.com and that works. But if you have like the author, you can say the author. If you don't have the author, you can just simply say the website. Deliver the information as accurately as you possibly can because, again, that's really important. We talked about that in Speaking to Inform. And you must state the sources in the outline, and then you have to state them orally in the speech. So you've got to say in the speech, according to blah, 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 in an article written by so-and-so. They explain, in an interview I conducted with blank, those kind of things have got to happen in these next 2 speeches, which is the speech to inform and the speech to persuade. So, when you're working on the research project, one of the things your textbook talks about is like you kind of have to develop like a scheme or a plan when putting this together. I think this is a pretty good concept. I really like this. So the idea is that you develop a plan that you're going to follow, like how many days you're going to do certain things and what you're going to look for, and then you follow that plan. This is great because it kind of, as your book kind of points out, when you develop that plan, it should put you in like the right frame of mind when you're looking at concepts. And you've kind of set like finite deadlines where you're going to stop certain things and start certain things. You've got research priorities, what you're looking for each day, which I think is a great thing to have. And then also like you're recording the things that you find. I'll be honest, it's one of the toughest things that I have. And when like working on projects is I'll find some really good stuff and I'll write down the information, but I won't write it down as accurately as I should have, so I'll have to go back and do it twice, and so you want to avoid that. And then, of course, you want to avoid plagiarism. A lot of times people think, well, I'll just say it off the cuff and he'll never find out. I'll probably find out, or I'll just count off and you make a bad grade. So don't do that. It's not worth it. All right, so developing general knowledge. How do you actually develop general knowledge? Well, first, you can use your own personal experience. Hopefully, you pick a topic that you're familiar with and that you want to kind of work with a little bit more. You can also do basic internet searches, like looking through search engines, looking through dictionaries. Even looking through social media, that works. There's nothing wrong with using social media. Everybody does it nowadays, so use it. But be careful and be a little leery of social media. Sometimes it's not as accurate as you think it is. You can also go to one of my favorite places, the library. The library is a great place. Talk to librarians. See what they have to say. Ask them if they have any suggestions of things that you can do or concepts that you can follow. You can also interview people. And there's 3 stages to an interview. There's the pre-interview, the interview, and the post-interview. In the pre-interview, you're trying to determine who am I actually going to interview, what questions am I going to ask. You're going to maybe contact them. You're going to see if it's okay. You'll collect recording devices that you're going to use that you will tell them about when you're actually interview them. Then the actual interview itself, on the day of the interview or whenever you're going to interview them, of course, you dress professionally. You show up early. You talk to them ask them if it's okay if you record, or if they say, no, I don't really feel comfortable with that, then you could say, well, it's okay if I take notes. Then most people are okay with that. And then there's the post-interview. In the post-interview, a couple of things are really important. As soon as that interview's over, you want to thank that person, but you also want to go back as fast as you can, and you want to transcribe those notes. You want to look through them, read through them. If there's anything that you don't understand, you want to follow up with them, and you maybe even mention that at the end of the interview. Ask them if it's okay to follow up with them. And I think the key thing for a good post-interview is you actually write them a thank you note, a handwritten thank you note that kind of like you would write for like a graduation gift or anything that you would have gotten. That's a key element. I think that's really helpful for not only the person that did the interview for you, but it also lets them remember who you are. And so later on, when you want to get a job, there you go. You got a hookup. So there's 3 things that we're looking for when we're doing research. We're looking for examples, statistics, and testimony. Examples kind of come in 2 formats. There's real examples, like things that have actually happened with your personal experience, for example, or there are hypothetical examples. And hypothetical examples are things that maybe have not happened, but could happen. Then you have brief examples, which are short examples, and then you have extended examples, which are longer examples. This could be like a longer story, kind of like your personal narrative. That'd be an example of an extended example. So from that, and you can find these all over the place. Those are great things to look for. They're usually pretty easy to identify. The next thing are statistics. Statistics are great, and this is the shortest definition you ever have to learn. Statistics basically is just numerical data. So when you see 37% of people, that is the statistic. Obviously, there's 3 kinds of statistics, or 3 basic types that we look at. There's a lot of different statistics, but there's 3 basic ones that we look at, and that's the mean, the median, and the mode. The mean is the average of a group of numbers. That's like, for example, your average that you have in class. Some of them are better than others. But it doesn't matter. But you can look at your average and see where you compare to other people in certain grades. You have the median, which is the middle number in a series of numbers. Of course, if you put them in, of course, in rank order. And then you have the mode, and the mode is the most frequently seen score in a series of numbers. Now, here's the thing: probably the one that you're going to use the most often is going to be the mean. Now, with statistics, they're great. They're really good for a speech. They're really great for a speech, and you really want to use them, especially as you start doing more academic type speeches or presentation of papers. You're going to definitely be looking at statistics. You want to understand them. You want to explain them. If you have them and you're going to introduce them, you've got to explain what they are and explain why you chose to put those in your speech. So if you're going to do that, you usually want to round the numbers down. You want to fully explain them. You can even use them in a visual aid. That always helps in explaining statistics. But always explain why you've chosen it and where the information actually came from. So the last thing is testimony. And testimony are things that you're probably familiar with the most. These are things like quoting people, like doing direct quotes and paraphrases. You can do this from interviews or you can do this from articles. There's 2 types of testimony that we use. We can use expert testimony, and these are people that are considered an expert in their field of study. So like maybe a professor of polymer science that's talking about polymers, he would be considered an expert in that field because he has a PhD, he's done research, so he's an expert. And then there's peer testimony. So peer testimony are average people like me and you. You may have heard people say that, like an eyewitness, for example, that would be peer testimony. The person's not maybe a professional. They were just there when the accident happened, so they saw it and saw how it worked. So those are 2 different types of testimony. So that's a little bit more about basically developing research material. If you have any questions, you can always just send me an email and I'll be happy to get back to you.